going to the West Coast next week. What's up, Nate? Welcome, welcome.
Hey man, sorry I'm a little bit late. Just
You're not late,
wrapped up
man.
a
You're right
meeting.
on time.
Good deal.
You're right on time. So as you can see, we do have indeed a very special guest, Nate Haggerty from Tax Promarketer. And I was just saying, Nate, I feel like the crowd that's on this webinar are people that are pretty serious about growing their career, growing their earning power, and really taking care of their clients. And I told them we're gonna kind of have some pretty heavy knowledge sharing at the start, but also
Oh
looking
man,
forward to
you made the
interactive
best
Q&A.
slide deck. You made a far superior slide deck on email marketing than I've ever made.
Oh
Yes.
man, man, yeah, you're just buttering me up, man. Now
Oh,
you're
it's
getting
the
me
truth, bro.
excited to go through. I'm getting excited about the slides now. Is that weird?
Well, yeah, slides and yeah. Um, you're driving the slideshow, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna take care of the slides and we'll get started. I like to start, Nate, just out of respect for everybody's time, just right
No,
on time
right on time. Yeah, no, and
yeah.
honestly, I'm super pumped about this. And so we can just, before it actually starts, I just want to say, like, this, you and me talking on a webinar, just the two of us, we haven't done this before. And our friendship has grown so much over the last few years. And what you are doing, I do want this on the actual recording. What you were doing at Pronto Tax School is amazing. Can I get an amen in the chat?
Thank you, man.
Everybody
Thank
who
you.
loves Andy and what he's doing. Yes, you have what it is, and I put this in my email to my list. And so some of you who have not yet met Andy, who might be joining us, need to understand this. And I just want to assert it again verbally. But what Andy does and the generosity of spirit to his fellow professionals, yeah, I mean, sure, it's not a nonprofit. Like he is charging a little bit for certain levels of help and content, but not as much as he could and should, in my opinion. But he is so giving just on his free email list. And I've had him on multiple kind of panel webinars and have him on another one here in a couple weeks. With my people, and always get such rave reviews. Last year, I will always remember how you offered this thing that you'd been selling and you kind of converted it to free for like this group of like 1,000 people that I'd gathered on this webinar and 1,000 tax professionals. And you offered your thing for free, and you could have made a butt ton of money by like charging even just a little bit with it, but you did it, man. And that's why I think that leading with that kind of value is unfortunately rare reality in at least online marketing world. I know in tax world, it's not as rare, which is a beautiful thing about our industry, is there really is a collegiality to it.
Yep.
But in the world that I also swim in, so I've been in the tax industry almost 20 years, and online marketing world at the same time. The online marketing conferences and the kind of networking groups and masterminds that I'm a part of, they're so many freaking sharks. I have to like take multiple showers whenever I come home from like those events. I mean, it is, anyway, all that to say, in contrast to who you are and how you treat your people. I don't want to butter you up too much, but it's just one of the reasons why my team loves you. You're one of our clients. But I think everybody on this webinar, everyone who's on your list, appreciates your heart of service. And I do too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So it's been a great start to the webinar so far, as you guys can see.
We're done, right?
Yeah, I mean, just absolutely crushing it, knocking it out of the park. That's why I said a special guest, and so we do the best way that we know how to thank you. And I know Nate feels the same about, all the people from his list that are on this webinar. The best way we know how to thank you for being here today is to just really deliver something that you get value out of, and that really helps you in your real career. So with that being said, let's get right into it. And today's topic is going to be the number one marketing method for tax pros. Now, this is what I personally think is the number one method. We're actually going to get quite a bit of input from you guys as we go through. So I'm open to kind of some debate about this. And Nate's got all the tools in the tool belt to be able to compare and contrast. And so if you guys want to get into some of that, absolutely love to do that. What is, in my opinion, the number one marketing method for tax pros? What is it? Why is it so effective? And how can we do it easier and better? So I want to just touch real quick on we're in this period right now, right? We just finished up probably, 3 just really challenging tax seasons, right? Everybody's pretty tired. Everybody's kind of, I think, taking a little step back, to kind of see like, what does the next stage look like for me? So I just want to, let you, this is what kind of I see most of our members and most of my fellow tax pros being concerned about right now is like, hey, what do I want my 2022 to look like and beyond? I want to retain my existing clients that I like and they like me, and they pay right and they pay me well. Yeah, because that's not 100% rate, right? I mean, that's not a, even if you're the best tax pro in the world, it can be a messy business, and but you really want those clients that this is why you're in this business, is to serve these people, right? So you want to retain those people, keep them happy, and you want to also acquire new clients that meet that description, most likely, right? For some tax pros, Nate, and everybody else here, right? That may entail kind of like slimming down your client list, but adding more of your ideal kind of client, right? So whatever that looks like for you, you always want more positive clients in your world they're teaching you things, you're engaging with them. It's just like, this is why you're in this business. You also want, most tax pros, you want a lifestyle business, that makes people in other professions kind of jealous, like they kind of hear about some of the things you can do, some of the freedom, some of the autonomy. You want to avoid the overwork burnout. You would prefer to probably not hate your life on a daily basis. That'd be a major bonus, right? You want to probably be able to travel, spend time with family, all that kind of stuff. So does this kind of like generally match up, Nate, with kind of what you hear from your people and your contacts as far as tax pros?
Yeah, it does. I think you're touching on sort of the really felt needs that are, especially in that last one. The first 2 are a little more practical, but I think that there's a lot of people in our profession who are also wanting to begin considering making the pivot that might be required. Just from a technological standpoint, Moore's law is kicking in. And if you're familiar with Moore's law, it's like with technology specifically related to semiconductor capacity, but so it's kind of broadly applied because that drives everything, right? Because Moore's law of semiconductor capacity moving towards I don't want to get too geeky, but towards the singularity, right? with AI or what have you. But technology is just the rate of acceleration of technology is just, it's self-accelerating. So it's not just that change is going but like the rate of change. And we're seeing that in the industry, the number of software solutions and apps that are replacing our staff and a lot of functions or automating tasks, giving us the ability to focus on higher level tasks as a business owner. Now, unfortunately, if we use them wrong, they become their own kind of hamster wheel, right? But there is truth to the fact, as Drake has improved, as all these, all the different, the CERT, whatever tax software, they continue to improve. They continue to take things off our plate. We're all going to pivot a little bit. And so we need to start thinking about creating a tax business that works with the kind of clients that we want to work with, but is able to serve the non-commodity taxpayer, basically. So
and that's it, right? I mean, whenever we start talking about technology and we're talking about how, right? Like pulling back for all of us and saying, and even if your goals are different than these goals, right? Like maybe this isn't what you want, right? But this is a common vision of like, hey, what does a good tax career? What does a good tax business look like for me? This is something that we see a lot. So how do you get there? Is it technology? Is it, new team members, right? That's kind of where people are at. And, you see the person pushing the rock up the hill on the left side,
right.
You could probably grind it out, right? And do that. But a lot of people right now are saying, I'd prefer to kind of do a little bit more of this, right? Like I still want to win. I still want to get to my promised land or my vision of what I want, why I'm in this business, but I don't want to be grinding all the time, And so that's that technology piece that Nate says, but it's also applying the technology, not getting down these different rabbit holes with technology, right? How is not a known And there's different recipes, right? Depending on your size of your business, your client, so all that kind of stuff. So what we're trying to do in this webinar, and also just by Nate and I have actually been working behind the scenes some, really starting at the hit of the pandemic, right? Like we actually got in touch, and I was like, man, the stuff is hitting the fan as far as independent tax pros. Like we are under tons of pressure. I've always respected Nate as he's really an industry leader and I said, we got to do something for this group of people. And we've kind of just kept in touch and tried to propel and contribute as we can. And so this webinar is kind of like another step in that. You guys will have to let us know if this is something you want to see more of, if you have other ideas of what you'd like us to do. But we basically wanted to team up on this. And I'm going to give you a proper introduction here, Nate, in a couple slides, as you know. But this motto or slogan was, I guess, a credo, awesome, almost, for that Nate came up with: serve the world unselfishly.
I didn't come up with it, just for the record. I didn't come up with it. There's another guy that I respect who comes up with it, but I asked for permission to use it.
You popularized it in my world, and you've been not only doing it right, but you've been encouraging other tax pros to really embrace that and do that. So can you talk for just a minute about because those two things, right? A lot of times we think they can't be done at the same time, right? If I'm gonna make profit, I have to be selfish, right? If I'm gonna serve the world, I won't get paid well. But our industry is kind of we can find that sweet spot if we consciously pursue it. Can you talk for a second about why you chose to make this such a big part of your message during these challenging times?
Number one, I get ticked off and hacked off seeing these newsfeed gurus out there who it really is all about the profit, and they hit their list and their customers like a money pinata, and it's just their customers are all about just who's going to just give me the money. And how can I just optimize the money part? And the focus on that actually ends up not being as profitable, in my opinion. And it's not just my opinion. There's lots of examples where this is the case, of when you lead with value and when you actually approach your list and your relationships as real relationships with real people that can use the services that you provide and see it as an opportunity to serve. So there's a couple prominent people in our industry who are still kind of on that profit piece, only profit piece. And, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but all of us could probably come up with our own names. And maybe some of you, whatever, you have different opinions about whomever, it's fine. From a deeper philosophical level, as you approach your clients with a service mentality to just do what it takes to take the message to Garcia, as it says, as that old book goes, do the hard work, the profit does come. It's not a one-to-one relationship where it's always you see whatever I'm doing, A plus B always equals C. That's where I think a lot of people get hung up. They don't always see it right away. But when you actually do serve, and I'm not, in the Christian world, people talk about prosperity gospel. I'm not even talking about that kind of level of deep spirituality, what have you. And I don't even ascribe to that. But there is a relationship for how you approach your clients once you serve, where profit does come. You have to do the due diligence. You have to run a real business, P&Ls, whatever. But when you approach it with value, everything changes.
Yeah, and I think what we see in our audience and people that get along well with us is I feel like this is a perfect fit. It's just shared values, right? Yeah. So what we're going to talk about exactly. So again, I just really respect everybody's time for being here, and there's so many other places you could be. I want to lay out exactly what we're going to go over on the training piece of this, as well as what you should expect for this hour that we're going to spend together. So we're going to talk about exactly what to do right now to retain more existing clients without doing a lot more work. Exactly what to do right now to acquire more new clients without doing a lot of work. And how to increase prices if you choose. And we're going to actually have a little debate, or a little discussion, I should say, about that for your tax prep services heading into next tax season, and without losing clients. And that does require taking some action before tax season arrives. So plan for knowing Nate and I, we like to get into a little bit. So I'm saying 30 minutes-ish, pre-prepared training. So stuff we put together that like we know this is going to have value for you. But we do want to have a lively Q&A and really get input from you guys and really interact with you as our fellow professionals. So that's what to expect. Quick kind of housekeeping note, right, is like once I start looking at the chat box when I'm going, I'll like get down. I won't be able to concentrate. So if you want questions answered, which we really welcome your questions, like I said, put them in the Q&A box. So there's a Q&A box, right? As opposed to comments and interacting with other audience members, that kind of thing, in the chat box. So anything
totally
you want us to.
that slide. That is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I just wanted, I'm trying to get each time a little clearer, because people tell me I didn't understand what you said, Andy. So I'm like, all right, let me try to simplify this. So questions in the Q&A box, topics for discussion type stuff, and comments are always welcome as well. Even some light heckling, only of me though, not of Nate. Not even light heckling of Nate. So this is one of those adults only presentations, where there's like info shared. Everybody's a professional here, so you guys know that. So I want to try something a little bit of which I hope works, right? Is I want to try a poll, and I want to say before we get into what we think is the best marketing, number one marketing method for tax pros, what do you think? What are you currently doing? So I've got a 3-question poll there of like, 3 kind of hot button topics that a lot of people may or may not be doing. So just tell us, give us your honest, it's anonymous. So just give us your honest, what are you doing right now of these 3 pretty popular techniques? And that'll also help us kind of tailor this discussion to make it, as relevant as possible to the audience.
There's so many more than this, brother.
I know. But again, Nate, I'm trying to simplify, man. I'm like complexity guy, I'll write you like a 5-page long email, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
They told me I had to quit.
I can't vote. That's lame.
All right. Well, you're about to vote right now. You're about to not only vote, but weigh in. So I'm going to end the poll just in a second here, you guys. We got 50 responses, which is great. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to end the poll. And then I'm going to share the results as well. Okay. So some pretty interesting results. Yeah. And again, you guys, especially in the Q&A, you may have questions for Nate, like not directly related to what we're about to talk about, but just about marketing in general. So like definitely drop those in the Q&A box, because like I said, he's got all the tools in the tool belt. So now this technique that we're going to talk about right now, it's not at all a secret among the people of Nate's, marketing savvy and just top performers in general. Can you, and I know you probably have a bunch of other stats that come to mind off the top of your head, Nate. Can you talk us through like email marketing? Like, what do these stats tell you? Like how, is this really a proven technique?
Well, there's been so many iterations of the rumor that email is dead that it's become a joke in the online marketing world. And I love that on the screen right there. I love that last statistic because it's pretty dispositive for everybody. 78% of marketers have seen an increase in email engagement over the last 12 months. And this is a this year report. So there's an increase, not a decrease, as the explosion of other methods, the explosion of other softwares, text, app, GMB, these things that a lot of people talk about, email just continues to increase. In fact, the largest digital marketing conference and I told this to my list, but the largest digital conference in the United States, or one of the largest, just had their big thing last year or a few weeks ago. And the keynote, they said the number one method right now in 2021 is, ready for it, email marketing. And even with that whole like whatever that meme where the guys, and the reason, there's lots of reasons why, you and I could just go back and forth, but the data is clear. And my opinion is that it's the place that is the least noisy for the end user. And it's not a browser environment. It most replicates a direct mail kind of experience, even though, of course, you can delete, click away, blah. Yes. But on the computer, the email inbox is like the dashboard of people's lives. Right? For a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people. And it's the place where you just are engaging with one person saying the one thing. And it's not like a bunch of design crap, flying at you. It's simple text. So in that way, I actually believe that it's the greatest opportunity for deep relationship forming, especially with those who have a face made for radio or who aren't great about being on video, whatever it might be, or just talking, but they can maybe communicate something or have somebody write for them. Like nobody can do a video for you, but you can have somebody write an email for you. And that makes it a powerful, thing, especially if maybe you don't think you could write good email, but that's a powerful thing to have somebody help you with. Full disclosure, we do that for people. But I'm not even saying it for me. Like my purpose here is not to, so there's some interesting comments. My purpose here is not to just promote what we do. I just want to give you guys, that disclaimer, but so Keith made an interesting comment. He said, marketing emails go directly to spam and the recipients avoid looking at them like the plague. Mm-hmm. And that is because when you think of a marketing email, that's of course, but when you do email differently, which Andy and I are going to talk about, then it doesn't feel like marketing. That is the key. That's where most people miss it. With email, and we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves in the content here. But
Keith always has really good, incisive questions, Nate, on the webinar that gets us ahead of ourselves because he's aggressively growing his business and is he'll give you the no nonsense how he feels about it. So I was going to say on email marketing, so Keith, I know you're a numbers guy and everybody else on here is that the results and the numbers are what they are. And everybody that kind of, achieves, really scale in their business and kind of a lot of the things that people want, profitability, just a lot of good stuff in business is using this, right? So we're going to talk in a second as I get into introducing Nate about that comment from Keith, which I think is great. But at first I got to show this because this goes along with it.
Changed the picture out.
I was like, this is more recent, right? I mean, you've just rode
a couple days ago. I was speaking at Scaling New Heights, and they had a Longhorn in the trade show hall.
Of course, Texas. Yeah. I mean, come on, it's solid. So this is basically Nate's daily life. He's got 7 kids that, in reality, there's between 16 and 24 employees, but somehow really not worried. Just kind of moving along, doing his thing, co-founder with Troy, and current CEO of Tax Promarketer, in our opinion, as a client, the top performing market agency exclusively for tax professionals. So not doing a bunch of other type of marketing, email marketing, and kind of, I'm going to put that marketing in quotes a little bit relative to what we just talked about, has been a core service since day one.
Comment.
What's that?
Axel just said, Nate, that is a whole lot of bull.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And actually, I wanted to get an eye-popping stat. So I was like, all right, let me get an eye-popping stat. And so 50 million emails sent on behalf of clients. And that's not a typo, that's 50 million. So could you address for a second, because you started to get into it, but I think it's such a key point, is when I say email marketing and having worked with your emails, I kind of don't even think of it as email marketing. So I wonder if it's almost like a different term or a different phrase, right? Tell me about that and how it's a little different.
A better phrase would be relationship nurture marketing.
Okay.
And email happens to be the medium in which you do it, right? So whether that's leads or current clients, or former clients that you've lost or what have you, nurturing those relationships with value and relationship, those two things are really important. Especially, I might add the second one, not just value, because there's so much commoditized value and generic content that people think of content marketing, and it's a bunch of crap. There's so much, sorry for being blunt, but there's just so much pabulum out there, blah, 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 the same kind of stuff you'd find on a simple Google search, and like 7,000 other tax firms have the same articles on their website. So I'm not talking about popping out generic stuff that's value. What I'm talking about is a relational email that feels like the person put in effort, whether or not they did or not, but it feels like they put in some personalized effort to communicate in a relationship building manner that same value. That is what email is best used for. And it's what I do for my people on my list. It's what you do for your Pronto Tax School people. And it's what you do now and have been doing for some years in your tax business as well, and what all of our clients do. It's a different thing. Sorry, go on.
And so maybe that's another way to kind of think of it, is that, what we're doing is nurturing a relationship. And then what we are, the medium that we're doing that through is email. So I see we're a little bit beyond that 30 minutes. We're kind of tracking a little bit long on that. So I'm going to try to power through some of these items because I do want to take Q&A, but also not give this stuff, not just pass over it, because this is actually one of those things that can change your entire business, and the stats say it is. So with that being said, and we got the poll here, and this is not a secret to people that are really enjoying success with it. Why isn't everybody doing it? I guess that would be my main question.
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you're the man who sent 50 million emails, right?
Well, I'm the wrong person to ask, because it's always been sort of a given from my standpoint.
Interesting.
From the beginning of online marketing, even when I was kind of running stuff for Chauncey, I pushed him into it. And even like before, even some of the people who are doing it hardcore now, I just always felt like the relationship component of it is so strong. And I've always had this different perspective on email, and it's proven out over the years. And I don't want to say that I'm prophetic, but I think a lot of people aren't doing it because A, they've not like seen it done right, or B, think that they could do it themselves, or C, I was about to say 3, it's just too much effort and time. So those 3 things keep them from doing it. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I think Chuck chimed in with a nice comment, and very similar to Keith. So we're seeing a little bit of a trend here, is that he said most people think it goes straight to spam.
Hey,
right?
I'm fine with everybody thinking that. I'm totally
I said, yeah, go ahead and keep thinking that. But
yeah.
So I think part of it is, in my experience from having done it and not done it, and like, being like, I should do this, but I'm really not doing it. There's a pretty heavy social element to it, where it's like, I'm spamming people, I'm going to get mean replies. People are not going to read it. It's a waste of my time. So I think there's some like kind of head thoughts that go into it. And so that for me is one of the biggest things that I see.
Can I read something to you?
Absolutely.
Here is a text message I got from a client in April of this year, who has sent me a screenshot of one of their office managers, who said, hey, good morning. Just wanted to share that multiple clients have reached out to me to let me know how informative the newsletters we send have been. I feel like it's really helped with our billings. No questions asked when we bill. So this unnamed client sent that screenshot to me and texted it to me. And then I said, that's awesome. Good job. And he said, nice job by you. Price resistance is becoming a thing of the past for us, thanks to your valuable emails. After literally decades of getting haggled by every client west of the Mississippi, we've broken the cycle. It makes our team look great to have the pre-frame of we are working for you when you don't know who we are already set up in their mind before they interact with clients and ask for money. This is a client who, by the way, was you, who has a office, large tax business, and it's not just him who sees it, but your team sees it.
Yeah, and we're on the point number 3. We're going to talk about how this impacts pricing and what we've seen. So I think that'll be pretty relevant. Let's power into point number 1, exactly what to do right now. You probably can already guess what it is, right? Is to if you're already doing email marketing, keep up with it, maybe find ways to do it better. If you're not doing it, now is an amazing time to do it. And I think it's part of this overall rethinking and revising client relationships that I talked at the beginning, right? So that friend that only or family member that comes around only when they need money. Okay, like no offense, but like is the only time that clients hear from us right before we're trying to get money from them, right? And how does that, what, even if it's subliminal, what is the thought process there in the value perception? Or maybe it's the other way around, right, Nate? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I hated to say put the word booty call on a tax slide, you know, that might have been a first, right? But like, is it booty call or marriage material? And like, maybe you want to have that deeper relationship, that kind of more, you know, advisor ally relationship, but you're just not getting perceived that way. So like overall, you know, you mentioned the relationship nurture aspect, but like regularly emailing your list, what does it do to the relationship?
Well, I think what it does, and John just put a comment on this too, it builds that relationship of trusted advisor that is sort of the cliche in our community, right? It builds that perspective that I don't just have this relationship with this tax person to just do compliance work. They are actually there to help me through all of the financial things in my life. And I might see them and I won't be as like vulnerable to TurboTax. I won't be as vulnerable to Block. I won't be as vulnerable to high-priced concierge CPA down the street because of the relationship that I have with my gal or my guy who is emailing me and giving me this value, and it feels like they care, and they also know this other stuff, because it's not just about writing about taxes all the time. It's about personal finance, or for business owners, like, you know, cash controls and projections, KPIs, blah, blah, blah. There's so many different things you could talk about to your people. So that relationship gets formed, and it's a referral engine on steroids. And it's like a sealing of the relationship for life, so that you are not a commodity to your clients, so that they actually, like, they're not going to be allured by the, you know, whatever that shark guy is doing, you know, that tax planning pitch that's all over Facebook, you know, what's his name again? Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, started this tax planning company that's clearly a marketing organization. But you know what I mean? Like, they're just not as vulnerable to those kinds of pitches because you're their person. So it's relationship.
And I want to kind of respect and point out that for most of the people that are on this webinar, we are already doing that. You're already doing that with your clients. So you already have done a lot of the hard work of really like proving through that relationship and all that. And so this is
you do it one-on-one, but and you care, but like being able to build relationships at scale and demonstrate that to prospects who aren't yet ready, who might have gotten on your list, or like referral partners that you have in the community that you can put on your list. Like, that's a different thing. You get to show that all the time, not just when they know you and interact with you.
Exactly. Yeah, you're there even when you're not there, and you're expanding your reach. And so we teach value to our members, and this is what we believe in our business creates value for clients is three things: relationship, ROI, and risk. So I put relationship bigger and in bold, because isn't that something we've learned during this whole pandemic thing, is that relationships are so valuable and people are valuing relationships more, right? Yeah. So this is part of that trend. And I just want to kind of give a shout out to all the existing, even if you're using Tax Promarketer or even frankly another service, right? And you're doing this yourself, you're already doing it, you're already doing awesome, right? You're already getting it going. But how can we do it better? How can, you know, what does better mean for you? And so for me, when I look at our campaign, our relationship nurture, I should say, trying to be more specific with clients is a big opportunity for us. And really injecting more and more of our personality and our culture is a big, you know, way that we can do that. And so I have certain like very short lists. Don't worry, it's a very short list, very simple little tweaks that I do to the TPM emails that we use, that kind of I feel like gives us a little boost for our particular clients. So for TPM existing clients, if you guys want that, just make sure to email me. What we've done with our courses, especially our core update course, is we started talking about information and changes in terms of who it affects. So we're talking about what is new for who, and we actually have like a pending trademark registration for this. I'm putting a lot into this. I want tax pros, when you guys move towards tax season, to know like these are the changes for my client groups. Not just a bunch of information, but like for my particular client groups or little segments of clients. So we try to give you that in our courses. And what we want that to do is give you a little easier customized communications when you reach to your particular clients, including smaller subsets. You may have a niche that you really want to talk to and just really be that authority. So again, I just feel like we get excited about this, so we could probably go on more and more, but let's keep it moving. What are the results to expect? Kind of get people the bottom line, Nate, and talk through a couple of these items of like, if I were to do this and I made this a priority among all the other priorities that I could have, right? Because I could do 100 things, right? If I make this a priority through year end, what should I expect in 2022?
Well, I think retention, especially in the context of raising fees, which I think all of us need to look at doing this year, given inflation. Let's just admit the elephant in the room. But also, I think it's a good practice for, as business owners get more skilled, professionals get more skilled, to continue to kind of weed your client list from those that are really just price sensitive. Not that we don't want to serve those people. We can make provision for them in the context of having fees for those who see that a workman is worth his wages, or what have you. So I can't put a number on retention, but that's something that all of my clients talk about, like the retention, and you spoke about it within your business. I can't put a number on that exactly, but it's going to be significant. A lot of that's not always a problem for people. Retention, for some it is, for some it's not. But then referral generation is a big deal. And again, it's hard to put a number on that for every practice, right? But they're I would expect like a significant, sizable quarter to 50% increase in the volume of referrals when you continue to do this. In terms of lost client win back, holy smokes, that a lot of people don't do anything with it. And so if you actually just stay in their inbox, just doing that is going to make a difference. But especially if you segment them out and send them a specialty email just saying, hey, we want you back. That's a massive, beautiful campaign that all of you should do. One of the most ROI campaigns that you could ever execute, especially if you have some volume. And then, of course, just the respect of your clients. I mean, you've spoken about that. The price resistance becomes a thing of the past. That's really what occurs when you do this.
But other than that, I would say it's really not a good idea, and something that I wouldn't recommend.
It all goes to spam. It all goes to spam.
So give me like a one sentence answer on this is because I know this is something that comes up and it's related to that spam, like, am I a spammer, kind of a feeling, right? Is how often, like how many emails is too many?
So we do weekly.
Okay. Weekly.
So I personally send out more than that. But I just know that a lot of people aren't always comfortable. And so I'm just trying to help them kind of in a frequency. But really the true answer to that in marketing world is whatever your customers come to expect.
Interesting.
But there is definitely a too infrequent rate. And I think too infrequent is monthly. Definitely
too infrequent monthly.
Quarterly is definitely. Yearly is
yearly's flat line. It's it's a flat line.
I think monthly is close to flat line also, but you can get some bumps with monthly. But the relationship doesn't have time to really build momentum, and you have a lot to say, especially if it's not just beating your list with a money pinata. I came up with that phrase recently, and I love it because it's solid. It's so how much people skeezy marketers approach their list. But then, so people beat their list with a money pinata because they want to get that quick ROI from pay-per-click or squeeze funnel marketing. And they end up just going for the close, But then there's also the ones who just are so afraid that they, don't ever email their list, right? But you have a lot to say. When you can expand your topic list outside of tax law changes, you have a lot to say.
So weekly from a pro that sent 50 million of these things and seeing the results that they get is kind of like, if you have this question, which I know is common, that's a nice solid answer.
We provide multiple per week to our clients so that they can segment their lists. We have a small business owner and a 1040. And we actually have other tracks too.
And some people may be on both of those. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So we're going to get to, and this might be one of those webinars where it's like, oh my gosh, I thought this hack was going to be revealed and it was like this big secret. No, this is just like solid fundamental things that we know work. So exactly what to do right now to acquire more new tax clients. But I want to have Nate kind of comment on, because this is a little unexpected, I feel like, if you're just emailing your existing list. But it's the same answer. It's the same answer, right? Like regularly emailing existing clients. At this point in the slides, Nate, I actually pulled out the email marketing because I felt, kind of like we had just discussed that it's a little bit, but regularly emailing, being in touch over email with your clients
existing
in a positive way.
Also, warm circle, people that would like welcome your emails, leads. It's not just your like existing clients only. Now, per IRS circulars, you have got like explicit permission to email your existing clients. And I think 3 years is the IRS. I'm not sure the standard on there's an expiration date from an IRS standpoint. I have always done a 3 year and less if we've lost a client, like so the last 3 tax seasons, to keep on the list, at least the ones that you aren't bad apples that you just want to like never deal with again. But then warm circle, like people you have an actual relationship with, like referral partners, what have you. When you aren't doing transactional emails, you can do that per CAN-SPAM regulations. So anyway.
So we're going to have a number of people, I think that I feel like are going to come out of this webinar and say, you know what, I want to export my client list right now and like get this going, or I'm going to take XYZ step to actually do this. Yeah. So specifically, just because it's so easy, you already have all this contact info, which marketers, you guys look at this like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys have all this info. Like, this is insane, right? So we're talking about, this is easy stuff to do, like emailing your existing clients. Now, what to say in those emails may not be as easy. So we'll be able to talk about that a little bit, but this is not hard. This is not complicated. Of all the things that we do, this is not on top of that list. But how does email, like if I was to just say, hey, I'm not going to start with like circle of influence right now, just let me start with like what I already have in my database that I could push a button and I could export a list, my existing clients, how would that generate new clients?
Well, I've got lots of stories, but just conceptually speaking, it's the referral generation that is what does it. It's when people have that relationship with their guy, their gal, or their tax person, those referrals start to accelerate as you nurture that relationship. Now, I got an email from a client a couple of weeks ago, like we've gotten like 3 or 4 new clients in the last month from your emails. And I'm like, there's not a direct connection, but it's all from the emails. And so it's because people talk about them when you do it right, or at least you've got that top of consciousness relationship. It's not that the content goes viral. It's that the relationship is so much stronger that anytime taxes come up in conversation, they want to refer you because you lead with so much value.
Yeah. So in terms of creating the value for your specific client groups, I want to kind of reference back to what we're doing in our courses to just say that this is the kind of stuff that we're thinking about. Like, it's like, how can you be corresponding and communicating with your clients? Because one of the number one complaints that people have about their accountant or their tax pro is just poor communication, right? Like, and so when you get into emailing, especially if you're sending it frequently, if you can have subgroups of your clients that you're really talking directly to their needs, you're telling them what changes because people got too much information going on now, right? Like, it's like, so what's going to affect me, right?
Well, that's why it's not about information. It's about relationship. Information is a commodity. It's the relationship that matters. Sorry.
Yeah, and the tailored information is the proof of the relationship, because I'm thinking about you. I'm thinking about your time, how to use your time best, only give you things that you can absorb, that you can actually use. So that's kind of what we're trying to get people into, because we know that it works really well. And I want you to just lay this to rest permanently, if you can, if you wouldn't mind. Is it niche or niche? I feel kind of like I'm putting on airs if I say niche. I'm not French. So, where do I go with this?
Niche.
Yeah, I'm going with niche. I got to stay all American on it. And so, people, everybody talks about.
Is it gusto or is it gusto?
Yeah, that's a good question. Depends what you're talking about on that one. But So everybody talks about this, right? Do I really need a niche? And just a short version, why or why not?
I don't think you need a niche when you've got a relationship with your local market area.
Okay.
So I always tell people the niche is your local market area, or it could be a national industry micro specific niche. One of those two, like it is a niche in that sense. But in our world, everyone talks about a niche as in a vertical, right? Industry vertical, right?
Like dentists or
Right.
chiropractors or
Right. You
whatever it
don't
might
need
be.
that. A lot of our most successful clients, you being one of them, don't have a specific niche. Now you serve different niches differently, and you've got content and you make them feel like you're just for them. And that relationship will do that. Building relationship will do that. But you don't have to have a niche to succeed.
And I think, people in this business, we are blessed to be in a business where pretty much everybody needs our service almost every year. And sometimes they don't even know that they need it, but then when they get messed up, then they realize that they need it, right? So this concept of having a niche, if you are seeking a niche, like you're like, I really like working with this type of client. I just want to mention, and just I've reemphasized this on every training we've done recently, that the COVID-19 thing and us, this whole Zoom and we can work together anywhere, it has expanded your market size like infinity. I mean, like, I think we're still underestimating how important that is, that people, if you are seeking this type of niche, people will work with you from anywhere at any time. And so I think segmentation in terms of your communication.
I will say this from an SEO and marketing standpoint, for like the two primary like drivers of traffic, they still put our industry in a local category.
Yes.
So even if you say you want to work with cannabis providers or whatever niche, truckers, most of your traffic is going to come local. And so you can like rage against the machine and like try to say you're going to go national, but in terms of actual results, it's going to be mostly local. Now you can do different things with pay-per-click, and you can invest a lot of money and time into SEOing for national, and it takes it to go national, money and time. But it's going to be mostly local.
And but you guys do some
change that. Like, and you could go to events, and there's different strategies. You could go to like the trucker event and be that person. But anyway.
But what's interesting, and I know you guys use this in our marketing that we employ you guys for, is combining those, right? Yeah. Like mentioning your niche in your local area. So these are not mutually exclusive things. These are things that just work and are, solid. And again, just having that contextual, I don't want to keep pitching this, but I know that when you tell a client something that is actually relevant to them and you're thinking about them, it works great. And now let's come to the, I guess it might be considered like $1 million question, but this is something that we hear a lot of, is how to not only increase prices, Nate, but decrease price resistance. And even that that kind of testimonial that I texted you mentioned earlier is that like, that was always a big thing with us, is like, it doesn't feel good to grapple with clients like about price, like on every interaction and do that. We might have preparers doing 20, 30 returns in a day. Like, I don't really feel like doing that 20 or 30 times in a row. Right. So what we're talking about here, and again, the answer is pretty much the same as the same answer we just gave, right? I mean, regularly emailing your clients, but I do want to address, like, I'm one of those, they're all zigging, I'm on a zag kind of people. And I feel like there's such a consensus around like, you need to raise prices, you need to raise prices, you need to raise prices. And like, while I get it, and I've like been there or whatever, like, can we just have a real brief conversation, and maybe you guys light up the chat a little bit too about like, I'm not a big conventional wisdom person. Like I kind of look and I'm like, okay, I'd rather be different than better. And so talk about the whole price raising dynamic right now, because there is so much inflation. Imagine for this upcoming tax season, Nate, like I know we're having a lot of, not a lot of anxiety, but like all the prices are going up for everything. Right. And we serve a lot of middle income and working, families, right? So like, I don't want to be another person like slapping on them this upcoming tax season. How do you think of it?
You've got a location there in Long Beach, right? Right near the port?
No, yeah, and Carson.
Carson, yeah. Anyway, that's it. You talk about that because I do feel like in our industry people underprice themselves too much, and so I do like talking about price raising as a general rule because I think people don't have the confidence in themselves to price themselves as, you know, a workman is worth his wages, you know, as the proverb says. And you know, so I want to hear more what you're saying there because
I just feel like whenever anybody's saying all the same thing, that I always think like, hold on a second here, because whoever's going against that grain, you have more inroads, right? Because so we've been teaching value like among our team on those 3 R's, like relationship, ROI, and risk. So like, how is the client viewing our service is going to determine what the pricing power is. Because I don't like, Nate, with regard to pricing, is I don't like people to feel like I actually don't like the phrase like charge what you're worth, like myself, right? Because whatever I charge doesn't determine what I'm worth as a human being. You know, like
right. But you're charged what the work is worth.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's what I mean. But there's a little bit of like, it's almost like an identity politics a little bit. Like it's like if you don't charge a lot, you're this or that.
Yeah.
Right. So I think thinking consciously about this is great, but thinking about the client's value perception and how sending and keeping in touch over email, nurturing that relationship, how does that change that perception? So I think like, you know, let's just get real for a second here. Like, okay, how many clients have you seen that have this pretty much exact expression this lady has on her face? You know, like it's just like, it's a sincere confusion. So like, I don't like Nate to feel, and I don't like our members and other tax pros to feel like if somebody questions price, they're questioning your worth as a human being. They probably just don't understand, right? They just probably don't understand, why does it cost $300? Why does it cost $500? Didn't you just knock this out in like, you know, 10 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever?
Well, there's that old business fable that I like to cite of like the factory that's got this $1 million like a day run rate, and the thing broke, and they bring back the retired guy and he sends them $1 million bill, and they're like, that it was one hammer blow. And he said, okay, you want me to itemize my bill? One hammer blow, $1,000. Knowing where to strike, $999,999. Right. So like, that's the deal. Like it's the year-round work. Because it took me 10 minutes because I like made the investments in the software and in the understanding of the code over the year.
And you know, I think that was actually one of your best emails. I think that exact story, that was something that was sent, and it was in a context of telling other business clients, like kind of, it was like helping them, but it was also helping us. It was like a real mind bender kind of a thing. But like Greg, he mentions here, right? Like I underpriced for 15 years and got so much pushback when I raised prices. So maybe he got about 15 years worth of pushback, right? Because that's kind of that habit piece, that expectation. And so when people look, you know, you mentioned like the ports, right? Like we have a lot of longshoremen client they're probably working tons of overtime right now. People work really hard, right? I mean, it's like a lot of people work really hard. And so they look at us sometimes, they think, you know, I'm working year round. Maybe you just like working for a few months or whatever, like kind of, you know, now you want to charge me all this money, you know, I'm not sure, right? So let's look for a second at like, you know, how does sending and how does regularly nurturing via email change that conversation? And we're getting towards the end of the content side, and we get into Q&A. But I see everybody's still on here, so we might not have gone too, you know, we want to go hard and give all we can.
We haven't lost a single person, so
yeah. So you guys must be interested in this or something. So how does what we're talking about now, email relationship nurture, to use Nate's phrase there, how does that actually conquer price objections ahead of time and even at the what we call like point of attack, right? It's kind of like football. You got to win at the point of attack, right? So when the client is coming at you when you're trying to charge, it's kind of like too late to like, you got to prep, you got to have your good footwork, you got to be ready for that. So by doing this email nurture, you are changing the value calculation in your client's head. And we have seen this firsthand. This is not like it's like, oh, a story, I learned this at one conference or it might work or whatever. Like this is like dealing with thousands of real people every single year that like want to get top value for their dollar. And we encourage that. I want them to do that. Like, I want people that buy our products to say, let me test this out and see if I think this is a good deal. Right. So
Exactly.
what is a good deal versus a good deal? If you're in a once per year transactional interaction, a good deal for that is pretty low price. Generally it's like that's the default, at least, versus you're a trusted ally and friend walking alongside me through my complex financial life, which I think your emails, Nate, are kind of like, basically that's a major subtext to them, right? Is it's like walking alongside people in this crazy world that we're living, especially with finances. And so the conclusion, right, is like, you know what? I've been getting these emails from you. They're pretty substantial, as far as like, you're probably not as lazy as I actually thought that you might be.
Yeah.
But the irony of it, and this is almost like magic, is that you're actually being more lazy. You're actually using, like, it's like getting robots on your side to, it's like, I'm so glad you think I'm less lazy, because I'm actually more lazy.
Yeah.
But you're lazy in a way that is matching up with the client, to saying, when I'm giving you this price, think of all the other value and relationship that I've nurtured throughout the year. And I mean, it just has worked wonders for us, at that point of talking to clients, because the way that we are, and the people that I think gravitate towards towards being on this webinar with us, and are staying on this webinar at a very high rate, is like, you want to feel good about charging your clients. You want your clients to feel like, it's like they say in marketing, Nate, where Russell Brunson makes this point, where you want people to feel like, I want whatever you have more than I want the money that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that, right? Because I see value in you helping me with this, difficult issue of taxes. I see the value in our relationship. So I just think, I mean, I'm pretty passionate about this side of it, and how email quote marketing fits into that. What do you think? I feel like I got off on a tangent there, but
you took the words out of my mouth, brother. Let's get to, just for the sake of time, this slide is amazing. Let's get to the questions, but also if you go to the last slide, because I know I've seen some questions in here. This is about us, what we do here at Tax Promarketer. I want you to know that we've Andy like twisted my arm to try to create something like lower fee than what we normally do. We're really close. I don't yet have it, but it's really close to being available. What I want you to do is email Josh at taxpromarketer.com. He is one of our coaches on my team. And say that you want to be on the notification list for when that's available. But also, he's going to send you a full online marketing 57-point checklist, because we do so much more than just email. Even though we kind of started our company around the email thing, we do so much more. We're a full service agency. And so if you know that you want the full thing, and you are like really wanting to grow fast, and now go to taxproleads.com, and that should redirect you to a taxpromarketer.com/flow page. There are some questions that I want you to answer, and then it'll take you to our calendar, and you'll get a time with one of my coaches. It might be Josh, could be Christian, could be Becca. We've got a few different coaches on our team now. And they'll take you by the hand, and you can look at what it would look like for us to just take it all over for you, or we can just point you in the right direction so you can do this stuff yourself. I need to tell you, though, that like our fees are high. And I don't say that because we've been talking about high fees this whole conversation, but like we have like changed our model over the last few years. It used to be that we would just do like a email marketing service. We don't do that anymore, because we believe that email marketing has to be within the context of a good strategy for all the other pieces. And so we work with people like Andy, for whom we do everything for them. We are in development of a lower level thing where it's a little bit more set it and forget it for us. But we work like hands-on with all of our clients daily, whether it's SEO or content or socials. We do all that stuff. That might not be something you are ready for. And so that's fine. But if you think you are, go to taxproleads.com. If you think you are not yet ready for that, but want some of the content, email Josh at taxpromarketer.com.
And I just wanted to touch real quick on the email side. I mean, that's certainly only part of what you guys do. I think that I was struggling with the number 2 technique being Google My Business. I think that's like what you guys have done forever. We're like number 1 in like almost all of our zip codes, which are heavily populated on Google My Business. So what Nate and his team do, it's far beyond just this conversation. But I just wanted to touch on the actual just the emails that are pre-made from you guys, because it's like I said, it's a substantial. This is weekly, so 1040 clients English, 1040 clients Spanish, business clients English, business clients Spanish, tax problem resolution English and Spanish. I mean, just the amount of content. I just wanted to just kind of like.
Well, now we have another one too for bookkeeping only businesses.
Yeah, so it's like it says as somebody that's written a lot of emails, I wanted to put out that this is a regular flow.
And I put my hands on every email. There's some that I don't, some parts of it that I don't write every part, but I like everything goes through me, which is something that coaches tell me to get rid of. So if I can continue to grow, but I am so like anal about the content. I don't let just a team handle it. Like this is my thing. Like the writing and the content, like a lot of them I write, or like I have somebody that I'm walking by the hand, like take, and I come back behind it and fix it and make it way better. It's just sort of my thing. So I'm really particular about email.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so that's if you want to kind of work more directly and you're like, hey, I really want to do this. I want to have it done for me. So with that being said, I'm gonna give you a short.
But you can do this yourself. You really can. I want people to know that. Like, yes, I'm good at it. Been doing it for on behalf of clients for 13 years, but been doing it longer. But you can do this. It doesn't have to be as good as what you think that I might put out or what Andy puts out. You really can do this. It just takes like carving out the time to do it. So I just want to encourage you, like, don't hold yourself back. Don't adhere to the myth that all marketing emails go to spam, because we're talking about this thing that, like, if that was true, nobody would do it. Okay.
Yeah. So that was really important to Nate and I on giving this webinar, is like to not make it be like a sales pitch, like, hey, or at the end, like, actually, you can't do this, so you have to pay. You absolutely can do this. It's just about, are you going to, does it fit into your schedule? And would you, like, for me at this point in my career, I would kind of rather pay and make sure that it's getting done well. It's more valuable to me. I see the ROI. So depending where you are in your business and your career, there's different things. What were you going to say, Nate?
I just want to give people kind of the general skeleton of a good email, that if you're a client with us, and Andy knows this skeleton now because this is how we do things, but the first part of it should be primarily relational, primarily like you've got to answer the question, what's in it for me, quick, but like, you've got to then segue into some relationship building stuff, which means opening the kimono a little bit, like sharing a little bit of behind the scenes, what's happening in your offices, what's happening like in the tax industry. So like there's that what's in it for me question. You got to answer that right away. But then like you go a little deeper relationally and talk about current events, talk about what's happening in your offices. But then you go back to authority, where you have a piece that's really about real content that's really useful, real actionable for your clients, not the 3 updates to the net operating loss carryover rules, but like what is actually applicable for your clients. And then you end with a little personal. That is like the skeleton of a good email. Now you can do all of that, but that's how I do it. And that's go ahead.
And it is doable. So if you just took that and have a consistent template, you start plugging in, you do the work, it's totally doable. I want to get into a few of these questions to make sure that we do have that Q&A portion. You have a few more minutes, Nate?
Yeah, I'm yours, brother.
Awesome. So I really appreciate your time and expertise here. So Tracy said, and this is really a great question. What do I send my clients throughout the year, and what months do I send it out? Usually I send at the end of the year around the holidays, and they're looking for it. So that's that frequency question, kind of. Can you address that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, again, I like weekly, but if that feels like way too much, and I understand that for a lot of you it does, just start with like biweekly or at the minimum monthly. But I really want to see you talking about the things that are happening now for your clients. And so, yes, holidays is a fine thing to talk about. You can talk about gift giving, et cetera, but I also feel like kind of going against the grain, zigging where others are zagging is an important thing. And that's I love Andy's perspective on that. But really, it's about like the seasonal dynamics of your clients. Get into the mind of your clients and think about what are the things that they're thinking about at this moment. And so, like in August, you could talk about like spending around school. It really just depends on the financial, and we really want to orient it financially, because that really is going to be probably like where the authority pieces are going to be actually received. Sometimes you can go outside of that just as like a palate cleanser, but mostly you want to stay in the financial world. And so there's so many financial topics that you can write about, but it's going to be different for 1040 clients as it is for your business clients, right? So your business clients talk about expense controls, talk about, payroll, how to compensate people, how to lead a team, how to price services, how to sell a little bit. I mean, so many things you can talk about, general business strategy things, but again, oriented towards the financial. So like KPIs, like the sort of things, like SBA loan stuff, I mean, there's so many things that they need to hear from you. So that's what I would say about that. Let's see, Tracy, how much of an increase is reasonable? I'm not sure what she's referring to, because that was from 10
she's talking
ago.
about my pricing rant.
Oh.
I'm actually going to, so I'm going to drop in here, Tracy, this is how we measure value for clients, and I think it's really important, again, to try to get into that conversation in the client's head. So see things through their eyes. So we measure it by relationship, ROI, and risk. I did, since you submitted multiple great questions, I offered you a free consult with our Director of Member Success, Glenn. That is really good resource on that. Told no obligation. Feel free to kind of take up on that. But if you can measure relationship, ROI, and risk for each client, you can start to understand what kind of price they'll pay happily, for the most part. Not always totally happily, but and that, I think that'll really be helpful to you to kind of get in that framework, because there's not like a one size fits all. It's but you just got to realize that when you charge something and you feel confident about it, you feel like it's worth it, and mostly the clients will also feel that way.
Can I address Maria's question about text messaging?
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. One of the things that we are building is like that text message integration. But let me say this about texting. And there's, I actually love Mahij, or what's his name?
Majid.
Majid, yeah.
Majid, yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, he's a really good man and really does care about serving his people. So like I don't see him as a competitor whatsoever, because he does a good thing. But there's lots of platforms out there for texting now. But here's the thing you need to understand about texting, and sometimes Majid gets this wrong, is that it's not a relational thing. Texting is transactional mostly. If you try to make it relational, like text weekly, that's going to be a problem. You have to be very careful about how you broadcast text your clients, how and with what frequency, because it just like goes right to their phone. You cannot, and like if people still stop for texts, even though I don't, but like some people do, a lot of people do.
But my text, like if I would text you, you would
stop
see it.
I stop it. I shove my wife out of the room.
Pull over to the side of the road, type of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, so that's something I think you and I have even talked about maybe you guys adding like a text messaging.
Yeah, well, it's going to be ready. We've created our own software called Client Stack that is going to create like a bunch of different texting components to our our platform, but also like there will be a way for people to use the Client Stack outside of our platform. It's going to be a little bit of a SaaS offering that we're going to be bringing to the marketplace at some point soon, but we're just going to include it for our existing clients in the beginning, and maybe have like some sort of lower level usage of it that will use some of our techniques. Just people can DIY it, but or DIY it rather. But again, I just want to point that the texting thing, you've got to be careful with it, and it's just got to be short, and it's got to be like transactional. So you can do it like, hey, just let you guys know October 15th is around the corner. Like something like that is great. Or, hey, estimated taxes are due. Just want you to know, like something like that is great. Hey, let us know. Like you can little short messages like, hey, but you can't do it like on a regular basis because it'll annoy the crap out of people if you do that. It's got to be it's got to feel spontaneous and feel like once in a blue moon. That's my thing about texting. Now you can create text automations that we're going to have like a missed call text back option. Like if you miss a call, it'll text right away automatically, where you'll say like, oh, hey, sorry we missed your call. We must have been on the phone or otherwise occupied. Here's a link where you can schedule with us, and we'll make sure that we set aside time. So
Nice.
missed call text back is going to be part of Client Stack. Follow-ups after appointments going to be part of it.
So we're almost like breaking some news here. Then we're talking about new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, but I'm not ready to really like offer it. Like we're still. I've got a team like building it.
So we use we the main services that we use for our marketing are Tax Promarketer and Texcellent. So we use text message marketing. We use Majid's company and his offering currently. It's good. Very good, but again, it's not one or the other. These are things that work great together to build that relationship with clients. Lydia is one of our best members, Nate, and she has so much knowledge. She's a CPA. She's like really popular, has a great, cool. She serves a lot of Russian business owners, just like awesome. A really, like one a top person.
Russian, speaks fluent Russian. Eugenia.
But, so the main reason I've not done the emails is because I don't know what to write and how to do this. You probably talked to Lydia a little bit about how Tax Promarketer works, but like if that's somebody's concerns, how would they possibly?
Well, so it used to be the case where I would send people to a sign up page and they could just pay money and sign up. I don't like doing that anymore. I want to consult with people. I want to talk to them and make sure that like what we do would be the right fit and it's like the right thing. The consultative kind of process. So I can't like I'm not going to give you the pitch. We want to like hear your goals if we want to like have that conversation. But essentially we build you a main firm website. We do daily social media posts, handle all replies. We do all of your SEO to your website, local listings. We manage that. We post content to your Google My Business page. We optimize it so that all of your secondary listings are all synergistic, working together. So you rank high with your GMB page. We help you get reviews. Google My Business. We handle all of that. Plus like Yelp, Apple Maps, Bing, and the other secondary stuff. We handle all of that for you. The weekly emails, you've got the things up on the screen that we do. We do security and so many different things. We kind of like a full service is what we do for a monthly fee, but we don't have any contracts to it. So like we have to prove the value every month. So everybody's free to cancel anytime for whatever reason. We continue to grow and people don't cancel. So say that for that it is what it is.
Yeah.
That you think a good answer?
Yeah, I think it is. And I just added for Lydia because is that the main core of it as far as email marketing from like my client side is you go into every week, you get a notification, hey, your emails are ready to review, right? Then you go into like a dashboard kind of thing, you review them, you fine tune them a little bit, make sure it's, matching with your voice, your client base, that type of thing. And then you just click send. So it's really much skipping over all the part about actually writing the emails, which is, it's more work than you think, to do that. And
Lydia, to your question, any chance of letters in Russian? Я не знаю. So
that sounded like yes and no at the same time.
Yeah, kind of. I was trying to flex. I took 1 year of Russian in high school.
That was a flex. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Decent flex.
Anybody could do that who didn't take. I mean, I don't remember. Anyway, Здравствуйте. Anyway, thank you, Lydia. So I would say, what Irina said, a lot of Russian speakers are trying to, also correspond in English, but you would know better than me on that. We don't have a translator who puts it into Cyrillic, and we could do that on a specialized basis potentially.
But again, I like how you're thinking, Lydia, and I know in our other like our business tax verified mastermind group, Lydia is like a major participant. Is that we keep talking about customizing and getting to where it's like, and so that's that mind frame of like, how can I tailor? How can I, be giving these people something that they will never get, from other places. So I love the thought process on that. As far as like our courses, real quick, we are working with this kind of communication based framework that is like we've put a lot into this. And so if you go to courses.prontotaxschool.com and you're like, hey, I want kind of a different course update experience. I don't want just all this info just thrown at me. I want to know like which client groups need to know which information. You can just go and you can check out the courses, search by your credential. That's how we mainly do it, and just give you that extra little boost in your communications, both in person and if you're doing email marketing. So that's kind of my short sales pitch about how we fit into this and want to help you continue to do this better. Let's keep moving through the questions. I see it looks like you might be typing an answer or dropping like a cut and paste for Doug.
Let's see. What we can say. Lydia, is a good question to ask. What platform would you recommend for emails? And my answer was any platform that gets you to actually do it. There are a lot of really good ones out there. Just whatever is easy for you. You can use Zoho. Like if you like from cheap to more expensive, Zoho is cheap. But like MailChimp is actually more and more expensive. And I don't love aspects of their user experience, honestly. Sorry, let me turn off my DND. Active Campaign is a good one. We use Keep on behalf of clients. There's a variety of them that are great. Constant Contact's still out there. ConvertKit. I mean, there's so many different ones that you can use. It almost doesn't matter as long as you do it. Now they each have different nuances related to automation. We use Keep because there's so much like kind of automation. It used to be called Infusionsoft. So much automation that you can do with it. It's kind of like a Cadillac. Not everybody needs that kind of thing. Although they have a lower level version that I think is good. That doesn't have as much like Ferrari type or Cadillac type systems attached for kind of simpler businesses, which I think a lot of us qualify for. So that's a good one.
Yeah, and so Doug had actually a really good question, which again I love. I love real questions. Like authentic questions. Like, do you have an example or two of one of your guys' emails that you would be willing to share, and how could he kind of understand that?
I was just typing the answer to that one. Ask Josh for one, and he will send you one. Josh@taxpromarketer.com. I occasionally also send them out to my email list. Like I've done that like a couple times a year when I write one that anybody could use. Like I did a couple times during COVID where like I wrote one and it was like, oh man, like this is just everybody needs this kind of like thing out there. And it's not going to be like a secret sauce for my clients. If I just help people, no matter if they're a client or not, like use this. Like I did one on the EIDL PPP that I just let everybody have, just as a sort of a public service to the industry. I do that, probably once or twice a year. But like in terms of like the regular emails, in like my presentations that I present, I'll share them occasionally. It's kind of hard to like, just share them because there's so much like framing that we've gone through a lot of in this presentation that people need to understand. But again, send an email to Josh@taxpromarketer, and we can convert some of the recent ones to like public Google Docs and send it to you, and you can see it.
Yeah, and great question too. And I think that'll be a good test of the actual content. So Greg has a really good question. And Greg was talking about how when he raised prices, he felt like he faced resistance, but you can see Greg is not, he's got 1,500 clients. Yeah, So don't get it twisted and think that Greg's not doing things right and he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he's been voted for. He's been voted for by the real clients and the marketplace to say, he's high skill and he's worth working with. He has gone to remote only. And actually moved out of state, so he's got like the double, the double whammy going on, and can't keep all 1,500 clients. Is doubling the fees a good strategy to keep the best clients, but not all of them? Um,
What do you think?
yeah, I think I've seen
I
people
think it's a
that
hammer
have,
blow that will accomplish maybe what you want, but it is a hammer blow. I don't like, so I actually went through a price raising last year for the first time ever, and for my existing clients. I'd always vowed I wouldn't do it to myself, and I eventually got to the point where I felt like I needed to. But here's the way I did it, and I recommend this strategy. Number one, I was showing value to them over years, but even I'd really made sure that I was showing a lot of value before I raised fees. Okay, and so a bunch of new things we're doing for our clients. But number two, I sent them an email like 60 days in advance of doing so, and gave them a choice, where I said, if you've got a choice here, you can stay at this, do nothing, and your fee will raise by X amount. For us, we raised our fees by like 20% or so. It really depended. I did a spreadsheet of my clients, and like I took duration into account. I took like the fee that they were paying, like if it was way lower than new clients are getting, because we've raised fees on new clients over the years, but like existing clients always was the same. So, but then I said, hey, you can stay at this level. It's going to go up by like $50 or $100 a month if you do nothing. And if we don't hear from you, that's what it's going to be. But you get this really amazing option to like get this higher level service at a discounted rate. And like, you're not going to get that option again. And you can like choose that option. Now, for some of you, it might require starting that other higher level service, right? And maybe that's a way you can put your clients into different tiers of access to you. But like, they get this amazing level for a great deal, and they could choose that. And then they could, of course, talk to my staff. So I gave it 60 days of lead time. I didn't just like bump it on them. And so that really helped when I did that. And we lost some clients, but we added, I don't mind sharing this, $10,000 a month of profit when we did it. So.
Yeah. And for my part, so that, yeah, I mean, that's kind of speaks to the results part of it. I think, Greg, you're definitely on a good thought process, and I would try to look at what in this new situation, right? You're going all remote, you're moving. What does success look like for you? Like, what does a really good situation look like for you? And then, figure out the math of that, right? Like if you would be happy working with half the clients and making the same money, like you're kind of indicating that you are, then I would move towards that. But I think like Nate's point is really well taken about like, and some of our other members, like our best members are dealing with as well, is like letting the clients know ahead of time and treating them like exactly how you would want to be treated, right? So like, and that's why you have 1,500 clients, right? Because you probably already are that type of person, so like, don't spring it on them later. Like get out and say, my business has changed in such and such ways. This is what's going on. This is why it's still a great, or this is why this benefits you, right? Because I'll probably go with you if I'm like, if I feel like, yeah, it's still very worth it, and like I'm going to get even more, and it's going to be a good thing, I'll stay with you, right? And those are the clients that you really want to keep. So just remember to like, some people, they just kind of like abandon it, and then just be like, oh, I'm just going to take the fallout, right? But you don't really need to do that, Greg. You put yourself in a position where you have good options. So you could sell those clients to another preparer that could use a few hundred clients, right? You could have a team member that is still in a seasonal office and is handling those cheaper, those less expensive type of returns. So just make sure that like, keeping an open mind. And I would say talking to other colleagues, like talking to other people that have done that kind of the moving, the remote, and all that. And I'm in one of those categories. So, you could feel free to reach out to me as well. So thanks a lot, Greg. Really appreciate your great questions and comments. Hopefully that kind of does help. But where do you want to end up from this? I think is really key, instead of just what to do, but why are you trying to do it? Where do you want to get to? Do you advertise other type of businesses like insurance or multi-services? I think Nate, yeah, that's going to be kind of a no, although you could always
No, I do
customize
in
your
certain
emails,
cases.
right?
So here's what I do is I actually have relationships with other marketers who are terrible. They have not built the name that I have. I get that question all the freaking time. And so, because I speak a lot to like CPA groups who aren't necessarily like independent firms, but like our in-house CPAs or what have you. And so I get that all the time. And so what I've done is I formed relationships with other marketers who are really good at different niches. And so I do have like an intro that I can make, or in some cases, we actually do it in-house and get supplement help from other marketers. But our whole team is so focused on tax and accounting that we don't really do it in-house all the time. But there's ways that we can do certain things. So the answer is yes, in certain cases.
And I would add too on that, because we have an insurance business component of our tax office as well, is keep in mind that you can always customize the emails.
Yeah.
And you can send your own emails through the same system. So like you do have that flexibility to add in little, lines or little things. And I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind as you look at it. Shane has a really good question here, Nate. If we are, yeah, if we aren't ready for a full email campaign, and again, it's kind of like that's not all it is, but that's what we talked about during this webinar. With Tax Promarketer yet, and we want to tackle it in-house, what are the drawbacks besides just the time investment? So it sounds like Shane's saying like, hey, I can put in the time, I'm ready to do that.
Yeah, good. I love that, Shane. I mean, honestly, there's like one of our goals here at the agency is actually to have people grow to the point where they can graduate and bring everything in-house. And obviously that puts us out of business, but like if somebody builds like a $4 or $5 million company, $10 million company, it makes sense for them to like hire somebody to do a lot of what we do. We really serve the companies that are like in that growth stage between like $200,000 of revenue or so, or they're a well-funded like startup, up to like, I don't know, whatever Andy's is. I don't want to out him on it, but it's a multi-million-dollar. We serve multi-million-dollar firms. But it's like the ones, and actually he has in-house marketing people. We come alongside in-house marketing people a lot too. But the point is, I love the effort and I love to see you do it. So the answer, email response and engagement is a biggie. But a lot of software will do that for you. Content is going to be the biggest challenge for everybody.
Yeah.
And the style and the actual material. You can go hire a writer to help you with it, but I need to tell you, it's freaking hard to find a good writer. There's a lot of people who can put out stuff, but it is really hard to find a writer that understands the relational component of things. But you could do that, I think, better than any hired writer can. And so you can maybe hire a writer to help you with articles that you take and then like adapt and put your own personal spin on. That is one way that you could DIY it. Or you can probably spit out knowledge yourself. It's just a question of what you want to spend your time on. It depends on your scale and kind of your level of hustle that you want to put in to these tasks at the beginning. I recommend like any customer, any person in a growth mode I'm obviously horribly biased in this response, but I do this for our business as well. I hire out so many things with vendors that are good because that I could do a lot of their tasks, but like, I just know that I have to like be thinking big picture as an owner, as the CEO of my company. I could do everybody's job in my business. There's some people that are way nerdier and better at certain things, but I could like be enough to do enough to be dangerous in everybody's job. But just like you do, you understand that's not the best use of my time. And so, but in the beginning, we all have to hustle hard a little bit in the startup phase. And it might be that what we're doing is instead of investing risk with money, we're doing it with time. And that's fine because that's an asset we have. We don't have the money asset, we have the time asset. So if you've got the time asset and you are like in that growth stage, then just know that it's going to take you time to learn to write this stuff. But the technological standpoint, like there's so many articles that you can find that will help you set up all that stuff. It's kind of commoditized. It's not a big deal. It's the content that's the hard part.
Yeah, and I would add to Shane, is what I found really difficult when I was getting quite a bit more into emailing. As you guys are on our list, that this is a major way that we communicate with you guys, try to bring value into your world, is the social, like you will get some responses back that you kind of like hurt your feelings a little bit. You know, you could say that, right? Like say you try your best to like provide this value, you write somebody this nice, you know, you like try to, and then people are just like, you know, you're a spammer, you know, you're ugly, you're, you know, like you get occasionally some of those kind of things. And to me, that's actually a major reason why people don't do it, is that like, you know, not being able to handle, you know, that 1 out of 100, you know, it says really more like 1 out of 1,000 generally of people that are just having a bad day and they might rip you a new one. So I would say that's something to kind of, you know, consider as you get into it. But the amount of people that write you back saying, hey, thank you, you know, this was helpful to me, if you're doing it right, is like way more. And for me, like I live off that stuff. You know, people send me something back saying, hey, I'm glad I'm getting your email. This helped me with XYZ client situation, or this helps me just feel like I'm part of a community, and that I'm moving forward, that I matter, all that kind of things. Like you live off that stuff. You probably, you know, I know that means a lot, Nate. I mean, those responses you get, and that's actually, I think, feeding into, like, it kind of keeps your momentum going. And it's like, it's a relationship, but it's not just one way, it's a two-way street. You're getting some love back, you know, from that effort you're putting out.
Yep. I agree. You said it great.
So I think we're out of formal questions. To kind of close this out, you know, and first of all, thanks everyone that showed up, voted with your time. Time is the most valuable resource. Thanks, Nate, so much for your time and expertise here. You know, I wanted to touch on this, Nate, because I think this is like, we have a lot of analytical buyers in our market, like people that will look at a service and they'll say, like, should I buy this service? Should I invest in this? How much more am I going to get back than I put out? You know, like, because we're, you know, doing taxes and stuff like that, right? So from a numbers point of view, I want to point out one thing that is like really important that you've touched on in other webinars that you've done, and also that you've touched on, like, discussing with your clients specifically. Like I remember in getting one email in particular about this, where I was like, oh, that really hit close to home, is that like when you're doing good marketing, right? Marketing is attracting attention, right? And advancing your relationship, right? So then what about the part where when somebody actually calls you, you know, and you actually have to sell them? And so the systems end of like, for example, you guys were generating for us, like, I think it's like a couple hundred, like, Google My Business calls, like, per month, right?
Oh no, bro. We looked at the numbers.
It was like crazy. It was like some
show it off
stupid
all the time. It was crazy what we were doing for you guys.
It was some dumb amount.
3 months, over 3,000 phone calls.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. Like it was some just ludicrous. And so I started looking at our phone records, and I'm like, wow, we're like really are missing like a lot of calls. And it's not about like blaming. It's like, why aren't you guys picking up? But just like realizing that, wow, like if you're doing good marketing, you're getting people calling. So talk for a second about, like, especially the people on this webinar that are in growth mode, that'll be like, I'm ready to invest in something like this. I want to step it up. You got to kind of think about, like, how are people answering the phone? You know,
well, dude, that's
that kind of thing.
Another webinar, man.
I like to stack webinars, man. I stack a new webinar at the end of the old webinar.
Let's. I mean, I'm willing to do another one come like before the end of the year if you want to. It's up to you, Andy. I love your crowd a ton, honestly, because of the culture that you've set. But let me give a brief answer, and then maybe that's something we talk about before the end of the year. As well as other interesting.
Just let us know it's important, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's so important. I mean, you like so one of the things I sometimes do for our clients, I will call them and pretend to be a juicy prospect, and just to see how they're handling the phone calls we are sending. And it is horrifying. And occasionally it's great, but most of the time it is, oh, Andy's not around, I don't know the answer to that question. Just call back another time. You know, I'm not saying
is he there? Is he there? No.
Yeah. I'm like, hey, so I haven't filed taxes for the last couple of years. I've got a couple different entities. I think I got like a notice from the IRS recently. I might have some debt problems, but I've got like 2 7-figure businesses, and like I'm just like wondering, like, you know, is there something you guys could do to help me? Like, that's how I start the phone call, right? Like
layup.
The juiciest of juiciest prospects, right?
The proverbial layup, absolutely.
Right. And the people are like, oh, well, that will be how, you know, Carlos will have to talk to you about that. I don't really answer these questions. You know, call back another time when Carlos isn't around. And I'm like, ah! I mean, like, guys, do it. You can hire services to mystery shop you, but like you do it or have a friend, a trusted friend, do it. Give them the script. Call your office and see how your team, if you have your team doing it, or have one of your friends invite one of their friends. If you were the only one and you answer your phone, here's a great mirror. Have one of your really good friends ask one of their good friends to call you as a prospect, just as a favor. Okay. Now you might not have the friendship that could do that, but that way you don't know the person, and like test yourself, and that way you're not expecting it right away, but like just figure out what. So the goal in those conversations is to let people feel warmly welcomed, definitely get their information. Hello, like their phone number and their email address if possible. And if they can answer the questions, great. But one of the best answers is, Mr. Jones, like say the guys at Mr. Jones, like probably the best thing you can do is get on our calendar. So, because we could have a much longer conversation about this than maybe we're able to do right now on the phone. You could come into the office, or we could do it over Zoom or what have you. What's a better time for you? Tuesday at 10 a.m. or Thursday at 3 p.m.? And it's a yes or yes. That is like the creme de la creme answer, process for your phone people.
So I'm glad we got to see some acting from Nate. I feel like it was like there was some impersonations. Usually we pay extra for that kind of that acting service. But yeah, just again, thanks everybody for attending. I want to wrap it up. And want to thank you guys too for the nice comments in the chat room. There wasn't even barely any light heckling, which was kind of like, okay, yeah, but just really like kind comments are appreciated. That's what keeps us going, keeping us getting excited about these events.
I'll say one. I'll heckle you. Your backdrop sucks, bro.
I know. I wasn't sure. It was like, yeah, I need backdrop and lighting work. I need more staff. That's got to be the solution. More staff.
Yeah.
More help. Thank you guys. Appreciate you, Nate. And hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. And, let's definitely keep in touch and keep moving forward together and get some relaxation.
This was fun, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man.
Yep. Bye.